Welcome to Lesson 3, a tug-of-war between mindfulness and unmindfulness. In a simplistic sense, our happiness depends on close caring relationships that stem from having many kind habits and few unkind habits. And what helps a person build kind habits and leave unkind habits behind? It's through mindfulness. Mindfulness is a practice of paying attention to our intention, what we intend to do, the activity we are doing and cultivating at the present moment. And when we are attending to our intention, we are present, non-judgmental, and free of distracting thoughts. Easier said than done. Mindfulness comes with its own slate of proven benefits, both for our physical health, through less stress and lower blood pressure, for example, and for mental health, including less misery dwelling on the past and less worrying about the future, less preoccupation about success and self-esteem, and more deep connections with others. The guided meditations we have done together is one way to practice mindfulness. For example, when I ask you to relax your cheeks, your full attention goes to the intended activity of relaxing your cheeks. By the end of the guided meditation, I hope you were fully present, with no judgmental thoughts and no distracting thoughts. Mindfulness and meditation help us get past our fretting and self-absorption, enabling us to pay to the world around us the attention it deserves. Now, in this mindfulness exercise, you're going to count your breaths. In the guided meditation we did before, I told you where to direct your attention. In this exercise, you're going to direct your own attention to counting your breaths. The reason for counting your breaths is that doing so keeps you from getting caught up in your worries about the future and regrets about the past. You will take moderately deep, slow breaths. Count each breath silently as you exhale. Count your breaths up to 5, then start again at 1. It sounds easy, but you may find that your mind wanders. Let's count our breaths to ourselves for 1 minute. Ready? Go. If you are caught up in thoughts, return to 1 and start counting your breath again for halfway through. Okay, let's go on. The thoughts that distract you often depend upon the situation you're in. Perhaps you notice that you're feeling a little hungry. You might have started thinking about what you'd like to eat for dinner and made a mental note to stop at the store on the way home. Before you know it, you'd lost count of your breath. If this happens, don't worry. We often are interrupted in our mindfulness with distracting thoughts, some pleasant, some unpleasant. Thoughts arise naturally in the mind. Just go back to 1 and start counting again. We'll do this breathing with counting just 1 more time, 1 more minute. Ready? Go. Halfway through, if you're caught up in your thoughts, just return to one and start counting your breaths again. Okay, let's go on. I hope that short minute was enough, though, to give you a sense of a little bit of calmness as you were focusing on your breath and not your other thoughts. Our goal as we go through the day is to keep our attention on our intention. In other words, we're going to attend to what we are wanting to be doing in the present moment. Our thoughts, feelings, and sensations of sight, sound, touch, and smell make up the workplace for our mindfulness practice. So if we are chopping vegetables, we might start thinking about the guests who will be coming over for dinner. Or we might look outside and notice that it's raining. This is perfectly natural. By keeping our attention on our intention, in this instance chopping vegetables, mindfulness can help us limit distracting, unhelpful, and sometimes destructive thoughts and emotions. We can direct our attention away from the rain and return to our intention of chopping vegetables. Continuing our mindful chopping can be joyful and calming and actually gives our mind a rest from all our thoughts. Now, if we are unmindful, we might start telling ourselves a story about what we have noticed, such as, I don't like the rain. I'm going to get wet. I'll probably catch a cold. I can't afford to catch a cold. I've got so much to do. These added thoughts agitate our mind, cause us to pay less attention to the chopping, and can contribute to our unhappiness. Now, on the other hand, noticing the rain might benefit us if we remember to carry an umbrella later. But even so, we still return our attention to chopping vegetables. Mindful increases both our awareness of and sensitivity to our kind and unkind habits and their consequences. Let me repeat that. Mindfulness increases both our awareness of and sensitivity to our kind and unkind habits and their consequences. Being unmindful does just the opposite. We are less aware and less sensitive to our kind and unkind habits and their consequences. For example, if we have an unkind habit of eating too much ice cream, our mindfulness makes us more aware of that unkind habit and more sensitive to the depression it causes us because we feel guilty eating the ice cream. This awareness sets the stage to weaken that unkind habit, and the sensitivity to our depression about the ice cream motivates us to make a change, to eat healthy food instead. As you might expect, unmindfulness has nearly the opposite effects as mindfulness. Unmindfulness means we are not focused on our intention. Our mind is bouncing from one thought to another. We are not aware of how our actions are affecting ourselves and those around us. For example, if we feel agitated much of the time, we are unlikely to be aware that our partner eating next to us is upset by our agitation. Not being mindful can have dire consequences. Consider the deadly train crash that occurred on September 12, 2008 in Chatsworth, California. An investigation revealed that the train's engineer was sending and receiving text messages in the seconds before the train ran a red light, crashing into a freight train. 25 people were killed and 135 injured, making it the deadliest railroad accident in the United States in 15 years. Since then, engineers have been banned from using their cell phones while at work. Closer to home is the finding that in 2011, at least 23% of all car crashes involve cell phones. That's 1.3 million accidents. The damage inflicted by being unmindful is one reason I would call texting while driving an unkind habit. It is hard to be kind if we are not mindful of the wants and needs of the receiver of our kindness. Think of the Boy Scout who told his scoutmaster that his kind act for the day had been helping an elderly lady cross the street. The scoutmaster agreed the action had been kind, but added that it seemed a little trivial. The Boy Scout protested. No, it wasn't easy at all. She didn't want to cross the street. The Boy Scout imposed his idea of kindness on the elderly lady without taking into account her needs and feelings. This is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness reminds us to pay attention to the other person and to be sure that our intended kindness is likely to be received as an actual kindness. That means that with mindfulness we can be genuinely kind. Leaving our negative thoughts behind enables us to attend to the needs of those around us and our genuine needs as well. Once we fully understand another person's needs, we know how to be kind to that person and can act on that awareness. Whether an act is genuinely kind or not depends on the receiver of the kindness and what the person actually wants or needs. So, I'm going to tell you a story about mindfulness as a way of seeing clearly. A young couple moves into a new neighborhood. The next morning, while they are eating breakfast, the wife sees her neighborhood hanging the washout. That laundry's not very clean, she said. She doesn't know how to wash correctly. Perhaps she needs to use better laundry soap. Her husband looked on, but remained silent. Every time her neighbor would hang her wash to dry, the wife would make the same comments. About 1 month later, the wife was surprised to see a nice clean wash on the line and said to her husband, "Look, she's learned how to wash correctly. I wonder who taught her this." The husband said, "I got up early this morning and cleaned our windows." So it is with life. What we see when watching others depends on our mindfulness. Time for exercises at the end of Lesson 3. Open your handout to Lesson 3 and follow along as I read the instructions. Describe a time when you were unmindful. For example, thoughts and emotions about guilt, worry, resentment, or anger kept running through your head. You could not stop them, no peace of mind. Then describe a time when you were mindful. Maybe when you were alone in nature or when having a deep conversation with someone close to you. Now, before you turn off your video and write your answers, let's go over 2 new review questions. What does mindfulness mean? Paying attention to our intention in the present moment, being non-judgmental, and free of distracting thoughts. Why is mindfulness important? Mindfulness brings us peace and joy while enabling us to be more genuinely kind to ourselves and others. Okay, so now you can turn off the video for this lesson and write your answers in your journal.